Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Making It in Holland, a channel all about life, career, and business in the Netherlands. And speaking about career and business, today I have the lovely Denise DT with me. She is a best-selling author, money mindset mentor, and the founder of the Money Bootcamp. And today we're talking all about some of the money blocks that you might be having, how to infuse the chill and prosper attitude into your business, and so much more. Hello, Denise. So nice to have you here. How are you?
It's so nice to be chatting with you. We are on opposite ends of the world, which I love. And I love Amsterdam. I've been there so many times. I can't wait to come back. And I know we're going to have a very juicy conversation about money.
Let's start with the juicy stuff. You recently celebrated the 10th year anniversary of your signature program, the Money Bootcamp. First of all, congrats. That's amazing. And I'm just so curious to hear from you. If you were to start your business from scratch some 10 years ago, with the knowledge that you have now, what would you do differently and why?
It's so tricky because I think sometimes we procrastinate starting businesses because we think it has to be the one and it has to be perfect. And I never thought I would be doing the same course for 10 years. No way. And I remember at the time, a friend, she started a membership at the same time I started Money Bootcamp. And Money Bootcamp is a pay once, be in forever program. And I remember she was like, why didn't you do a membership? And I was like, oh, no, I don't want the commitment of a membership. I want to be able to finish whatever I wanted to. But I also thought it was just going to be a one-off thing. And then I thought, oh, people liked that. I might do it again. And so there's nothing necessarily I would do differently because I know that the journey is you have to start imperfectly. And I can see that with some of my friends who were thinking about starting a business at the same time. They were waiting for the perfect timing. They were waiting until they felt ready. They were waiting until they had the budget. So I think I would just literally just say to myself, yeah, great, do it. And even though now I know how much better it is, I still would just be like, start with what you've got, start imperfectly. It doesn't have to be perfect because it absolutely wasn't that first version.
Yeah, I think that's so important because I feel like as entrepreneurs, we can really be stuck in our own head and things will never be perfect. Stars will never truly align. And I remember you mentioning that you had a version of your website that you put together and you just hit publish and nothing was ever perfect. And then over time, it sort of upgrades and gets better. And congrats on your new branding as well. So I think you're basically a great testament to show that you don't even really need the bells and the whistles, all right colors and logos from the get-go. This is something that evolves as your brand evolves as well.
Well, I've never even really had a proper logo until now.
Yeah, I remember seeing that and I was like, this is actually a great sign. This is a great sign for everyone who's been procrastinating because they don't have a branding or they don't have a logo.
When I first started, the only thing that I was adamant about is that I was just going to show up and show myself. And I know that can be really scary for a lot of people. And so I would say to myself, my face is my fortune. My face is my fortune. And I've never been that excited about doing things like photo shoots, but I knew that they would be important for my business because I wanted people to see a real person showing up. I knew it would be inspiring to my audience. So the first photo shoot, it was someone who I met at a networking event. And she said, I'm a photographer. What are you? And I was like, I'm kind of a coach, but I'm not quite sure yet. And she was like, oh, well, do you want me to do some photos for you? And she did them for free, my first one. And you know what? In exchange, I made her a website. And I didn't know. It's just that I was like, oh, I did my own website. Do you want me to do yours too? And so I hear people say, oh, I don't have any money from a photo shoot. And I think, well, okay, there's always ways you can. There's always people who are just starting out. But even if you just got 5 photos, that would make a huge difference. And then the reason why it was so important too is every time I saw myself in a professional photo shoot, it was like I then stepped into that version of myself. I was like, oh, wow, people really believe me that I know what I'm talking about. Okay, I'm going to step into that. And then that became my new normal, which is just part of that incremental upgrade that you're going to do. You're never going to be perfect straight away.
Yeah.
And it's an ongoing process.
What are some common beliefs that can limit the success of a business owner? I feel like we already mentioned one, but I would love to hear more from you.
You know what? The biggest block that all entrepreneurs need to work at first is, what is your relationship between hard work and money? Or what is your perceived relationship between hard work and money? And that requires a bit of a deep dive, not only into your own family and your own family situation, but things like what city, what country you were born into, and what's the flavor of the water that you grew up in around money. Because we all have this internal relationship that it's, I have to work and then I can receive money. But now we work online, we're so leveraged, but it's like our brains can't quite compute that because it breaks that relationship between hard work and money. You can create an ebook and theoretically sell it to millions of people, but it doesn't quite feel right in our body to understand that. And you can intellectually understand that, but until you've done a little bit more of the mindset work, you might sabotage yourself because you're trying to recreate that hard work. So you might be reinventing the wheel. You might refuse to delegate and try and do everything yourself. You might overcomplicate things. You might procrastinate because you feel guilty about it being too easy. And a lot of people then, they ignore easy wins in their business because well, everyone knows this. That's too easy. That's too obvious. It can't be the right answer. And so we're trying to complicate things because of this relationship of hard work. And you might have grown up hearing money doesn't grow on trees. A hard day's work gets a hard day's pay. Another day, another dollar. I want to hear if you heard anything like that. Because that's what our grandparents had to do. There was no leverage at all.
Definitely.
And so it's kind of weird if you grew up hearing that and people had to go to a job and you got paid an hourly rate or you got paid per widget. And then now we live in a world with that. It's not true. It's like, what's the new law of gravity around work? And so then people get a little bit paralyzed because they don't know what the work should be that they have to do. And so that's the first thing, is just to renegotiate your relationship between hard work and money.
I think I can feel great parallels between a lot of the stuff that you said and things that we hear in this part of the world too, especially the fact that you have to work really hard and late hours to be able to make great money. I feel like this is very much instilled in Dutch culture, even if it doesn't seem like it from the outside, because there's also a little bit of this like work hard, play hard mentality here. I sometimes feel like work hard takes precedence. And before starting my own business, I was a former architect. And within the architecture circle, I also experienced this a lot, because there was this notion of being the starving artist. And that's a noble thing to do, that you get to pull all-nighters just for the sake of the craft, of the art, to put this beautiful piece of building together. But if you get paid for it or not, that's almost secondary. And we would often have discussions about not having enough money at the end of the month because a lot of the people were already getting grossly underpaid. So I think this, coupled with what you said, is very much prevalent around me. I see this very, very often, which is interesting because over at your YouTube channel, which, by the way, if you're watching this, please do check then Denise DT over at YouTube. She has some great videos. One of them was about some of the lucky bees inside the money bootcamp, talking about the mindset blocks around money based in the UK and Australia. And I saw a lot of parallels. And this just kind of gets me to think that they're almost like some universal money blocks that can apply to many of us. So I would love to hear your thoughts on that.
Well, this is my new favorite thing, is to pull together groups of people and find their commonalities. And of course, it feels like we're making generalizations, but that is culture sometimes. There is a generalization, and then we either feel like we're going along with it or we feel like we're doing something wrong. And so I've started to pull together different industry groups to say, you know, what are the common themes that you hear in your training or things like that? And then I really want to bring together more country groups. So I did the British one. My husband's British, and I lived in England for 9 years. And then my great grandmother was English. So I felt really at home there, but also there's some very particular kind of culture things. So the way I did this, I went to like the tourism websites of both Australia and Britain to see what are the stated values of a country, and what does the government say are the values. And so one of them is like tradition, and that feeling of being like an institution, and that longevity. And so we started to talk about, well, what does that mean for you and your money mindset? And of course, we're talking about it more in a negative point of view, because that's where you get the most information. And so, because if you grew up in a society that has a traditional class system, then you feel like you have to know your place. And for a lot of women, even if you came from money, it's still new money in a way, because women have never really been able to hold and make it the way we can in our society. And then we talked about some of the unofficial values of a country. And one of them is this value. I can't remember if this is you guys too, but British people love queuing. Is that something that happens in the Netherlands?
Yeah,
as well?
very much. You have to queue for everything, respect, especially for the train and public transport. You queue, you wait for people to, leave, and then you need to gently get in. And so it's very organized in that sense.
Okay, so organized and rule following, and everyone knows their place. So if you were to talk about that in money, right? So are you allowed to make big leaps? Are you allowed to make more than people who started at the same time as you? Are you allowed to make more than your mentor? Are you allowed to make more than someone who's older than you? Are you allowed to succeed before your older siblings? Are you allowed to put yourself forward for things, or do you have to take a ticket and wait your turn? And you can see already there's so many parallels there in business, because if you think it's fundamentally impolite to push yourself forward, make yourself available for things, pitch yourself, which is one of a pretty important thing in business, you can see how that cultural norm would be just so embedded in you that it feels like, oh no, that's not waiting my turn. That's so impolite. Do you resonate with that?
100% true. There's a saying in Dutch, it's doe normaal. And in English, it literally translates to do normal, be normal. So it's all about fitting in and not really standing outside of the pack, and pretty much blend in as much as you can. And this is something that I also struggled with, because before moving to the Netherlands, I lived in different parts of the world. And the way people are, for example, in Turkey, or the way people are in Italy, is a lot different. There, for example, in Milan, where I lived, standing out was the norm. Everybody had their unique, way of dressing. But here, it's all about blending in. And sometimes, this is funny to say, but during winter, for example, you'll see everybody like wearing the same kind of jeans, same kind of jacket. Everybody literally blends in. And if you're the only person with a, yellow coat, you stand out, and people kind of look at you like, why are you wearing that? It's almost as if like you shouldn't be wearing that. You should sort of just do normal, blend in, and just go about living your life. So that's really interesting to see the parallels.
That's really fascinating. And I mean, obviously I want to, interview as many cultures as possible. But one more thing on that, and I'll say the Australian one too, is an unofficial British value is being polite, politeness, not being crass and, TMI. And it's almost seen as being a little bit, American, or maybe, they don't want to be too demonstrative. And so that might be, very European in some ways. And that could be showing up for a lot of people. If you feel fundamentally it's just impolite to talk about money, it could be so hard to set prices, increase your prices, send invoices, chase up money, pitch yourself and put a value on it, get on a phone call with someone and they like go, the price is, because every part of you is just like, it's impolite, it's impolite, it's impolite. And then what's interesting then, if you've got the, you know, that kind of culture, cities and different regions have different influences. And so I live in a town that is a traditional working class town. It was a steel town and now it's a coal town. And so there's something there about being not normal. It's not so much fitting in like you were saying, but it's more about being working class, even if you're not. And so even the wealthy people, you know, they still have to be down to earth and not too flashy and humble. But when I talk to the Australians, one of our unofficial mottos, I suppose, is mateship. You know, we're all friends, we're all mates. And so it was like, well, how is that showing up? And then it was like, well, I don't feel like I can charge my friends, but then everyone is my friend in Australia because we're all mates. So who do you charge? And that was a big realization for me, because when I set up my business, all my clients were American, because I was like, it's okay to charge Americans. You're allowed to charge Americans, but I'm not allowed to charge Australians. And then I was like, oh, I'm not allowed to charge people from New Zealand because they're pretty much our brothers and sisters. And then I was like, oh, I can't charge British people. They're like my cousins. And so my mateship circle just got bigger and bigger. It was like,
and where does it stop?
It never stops.
Yeah.
It never stops. So that's really fun to look at, you know, that kind of, where do you fit into the culture? Where do you not? And then the flavors in that, because you might have been brought up in one country, but your family are from another country. You know, you might have parents from two different cultures. And how do you feel at home in that? What stories have you made up? What stories you take for granted as just this is the way it is? We have a similar thing, as you were saying, about blending in Australia, but we call it the tall poppy syndrome, where it's like,
Tell me more about that.
Yeah, it's very subtle in Australia, because actually you can be successful in Australia. You just cannot make a song and dance about it. And you cannot be seen to be too pleased with yourself about it. So you have to just be very low key. And I don't know if people just pretend it just happened by accident. You're not really allowed to show ambition and that you want it too much. It has to just be like, yeah, it all just happened magically. And yeah, it's very strange.
Very similar here. Actually, you know, maybe a lot of my viewers can relate to this as well. In the Netherlands, it's very much similar. I know people that do really well. They have businesses, they have beautiful homes, but the homes tend to be sort of tucked away in the countryside, not very easy to get to in most cases. So it's kind of like a hidden secret, but then out in public, they're just wearing regular clothes and they're not so flashy about it. And you don't really see them like flaunt their wealth out on the street. And that kind of comes with the more down to earth approach, as you were saying. But I feel like I want to challenge my audience a little bit here. It's okay to show up as you are. It's okay to, you know, do flashy things a little bit if that makes you feel more like you and you're happy about that. And something you also mentioned earlier about setting up the business in a way that's easy for people to give you money. I know you're very big about this. I noticed a lot of Dutch business owners are very late with sending invoices, very late with paying the invoices. You have to sort of chase them sometimes. And there is this one particular way of accepting payments here. And beyond that, people have a hard time adding on things like Stripe and PayPal. And I sometimes think just add it for the sake of your business, because you're just going to make it so much more easier for people who are like not based in the Netherlands to give you money. Because let's be honest, the Netherlands is relatively big, but it's not too big. And I'm sure as a business owner doing business globally, at some point, you're going to have a client somewhere like in Australia, and you just need to make it easy for them to buy. So tell me a little bit about your experience with that, because I know you recently bought some 60 courses from entrepreneurs, and you shared some of your findings in a recent video, which I'll be tagging down in the description as well. But tell me some of your findings about that came up for you.
It was a really interesting experience. And I didn't mean to do it. It wasn't like an audit thing. I did it at the start of the pandemic because I could see that people were feeling very pessimistic about the online space. And so I said, hey, look, I'm going to buy courses. I'm going to buy $5,000 worth of courses. So if you've got something that's around $100, post the link below. And I ended up spending about $6,500, and which was about 63 different things, because some people's, they only had, you know, like a $15 ebook, and some people had a $97 thing. But it took me 2 days, I think, to buy all of those things, because almost everyone made it so complicated to buy. It could have been things like just silly stuff, like the sales button was just not obvious at all. So it might have been the same color as the background, or there might have been lots of different things to click on. So it wasn't clear what is a sales button versus what's just like a graphic. Sometimes the writing on the sales button was very cutesy. So instead of like, you know, click here, it would have been like, I'm ready to rock and roll. And that's fine. But a confused mind says no.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm very online savvy. And yet there was sometimes still just going, okay, so I clicked the button, but what now? You know, and I'd have to search around for a cart, or I'd have to log in to something. And I was just like, okay, or they wouldn't take PayPal. Just all these little things, or the font was tiny, or it was like, you know, a very complicated script, or there was things flying in. And so that's why I wrote the article about it, because I just went, oh man, we are making it so hard for people to give us money. And I realized some of the things I was doing myself and how annoying it was as a customer to have to try and work at giving someone money. But I think the thing too that was really interesting is sometimes it could have been like 50 pages of scrolling for a sales page and to sell like a $20 thing. And so sometimes we just really overcomplicate it. You know, I was just like, oh, just tell me the thing and I'll buy it. Though I saw a couple of cool things though. And this isn't on that experiment, it was someone else did it. And I went, oh, I was buying a Canva template from somebody. And it was, you know, like $10 template. And then she was like, do you want just the bundle? And it actually was a bit too much of a like have everything, because I was spending, you know, $10 and I was clicking around and there was a couple of things that I wanted. So it was probably up to like $50, maybe $100. But she was like, do you want everything? And it was like, buy everything for $900. And it was really interesting, because if you were clicking around and you went, oh, I actually do want all of them, you'd go, yeah, why not? But I just thought it was so cool that she just asked, just put it out there.
That's amazing.
But she'd bundle up some of the little ones. So it was like, oh, you could buy this, or you could buy, you know, 10 of them and you could get it for $200 instead of clicking all around. And so there's just so many things we can do to make things easy. But I also have gone to people's websites. The links are broken. They haven't checked. They haven't noticed. No one's told them. Or, you know, the web page is down. There's so many things like that we just have to check, because people might read an article, they might read your book, or they might hear about you, they might like a post that you did on social media, and they want to work with you further. And most of the time people have nothing to offer. And I think that was a big lesson too. A lot of people were kicking themselves and saying, I don't have anything to sell. You know, and it was like, well, everyone should have at least one thing that somebody can buy from you.
Exactly.
At least one thing.
I remember you also mentioned, even if it's just like 1 hour of your time, like there should be something available there. Definitely. And I love the bundle idea as well.
I mean, when in doubt, sell an hour of your time. And you might think, but what am I going to talk about? Your audience will tell you. You know, think about all those things that people send you messages about, saying, oh, can I ask your opinion on this, this, and this? You could literally just call it, pick my brain. Here's an hour. And that's how I started my first year in business. I was just like, at the end of every single blog post, book in for an hour coaching with me. I didn't say what it was about. I just was like, bring me your problems and we'll talk about it for an hour. But I had it everywhere. And that's how my business got started.
Yeah, I think these are so valuable tips for my audience as well. check your links, make sure everything is simple and easy to understand, make it super easy for people to give you money. Trust me, people are out there, they want to give you money, and it's your job to make it as seamless and as easy as you humanly can make it.
Tell them, right? Sorry, just
Mhm.
to tell them the next step, because I see people do great newsletters, great social posts, great free content, and they're nothing. And so you can just say, if you liked this, here's the next step. Go buy this thing. You don't even need to make it complicated. You can just start with that, make it pretty, make it sexy later on. It's just like, if you like this, like that. Don't feel like you have to just give everything freely and not sell. It's not selling. You're just telling the 1 to 2% of people who need you right now, you're just telling them the next step and making it easy.
Exactly. And I know you have a saying, which is selling is serving. So don't be afraid to sort of tell people what is that next step. And yeah, it is not for everyone, but it's that, select handful of people who are ready to take that next step. And you have to let them know. This is very, very crucial. I think this is a great segue into one of the concepts that you have in your updated book, Chillpreneur, which is being rebranded as Chill and Prosper. And that is the concept of the keyless life. So let's talk a little bit about that. What is it? How did you come around to it? And what's the easiest way for someone to get started with it?
So keyless life for me started from a very personal problem that I had, that I always lost my keys. And this started at school. I would forget my keys, have to go and like hang out in the bookstore until my mum got home. And then it continued happening. So when I had my first student flat in Sydney, I would have to sit outside and wait for my flatmates to come home. When I moved to London, same thing would happen. I'd have to sit outside in the cold. And so when I bought my first house, I decided to get rid of keys altogether and get an electronic keypad. So I never have to remember keys ever, ever, ever. And I haven't had keys for, I don't know, 10 years or something now. But so that's my personal reason for it. But keyless life as a philosophy means don't try and be better at things that you're probably never going to be better at. Find the path of least resistance so it will never be a problem. Now, in business, that might mean automating things. I hate when people say, when are you available? When are you available? What time zone are you on? Well, I'm in Sydney. Okay, well, I'm in, Amsterdam time. And the back and forth. It is so frustrating to me, but that's how we had to start when I started my business. And you had to look up Time Buddy or whatever, and someone would always get it wrong. And so now there is a piece of software, Calendly, Time Trade, many other ones, they do that for you. And they send the reminders for you. And you never have to think about it. So it's that philosophy that there is an easier way. There is a way that doesn't require you changing your behavior, because that's pretty hard, changing your behavior if that's who you fundamentally are. And it's just something that makes life a bit easier and frictionless. So keyless life is personal. And the way you have to kind of figure out yours is what's causing you stress at the moment? What's a recurring problem? What is a personal weakness that maybe it takes effort for you to overcome in some way? Sometimes it's not about putting in a solution. Sometimes it's eliminating it. You might realize that you don't like working with a particular type of client. Well, don't offer that anymore. Just eliminate the problem. Don't try and get better at it. Or you might decide you can delegate it to somebody else. You might automate it. You might outsource it. Or, as I said, you might just go, not even a problem anymore. And there's no limit to the things that you can do around that. And there is always an easier way. There is, even when you think there's not.
Yeah, I love this. So everyone watching or listening to this, think about how you're going to make something easy in your life, in your business moving forward. And let me know down in the comments. I'm always very curious. And I think this ties in so nicely again into the concept of protecting the golden goose. So what's your favorite way of protecting the golden goose of Denise?
So this one came about when I was on one of my first big book tours. And I was so tired because I had 2 kids with me and my husband and my mum, and the babies were crying and I still had to get up and be on stage. And I just realized it was a massive shift for me in realizing I'm the breadwinner of this family. And if I am not happy, if I'm tired, we are not going to be able to have this abundance for very long, because I will cark it. I don't know if that translates. I will. And so we made a rule in the family. I was like, I am the golden goose. And that doesn't mean that I'm the most important person in the family. It's just, it shifted some things in, especially in my relationship with my husband, because even though I didn't grow up in a very traditional household, there still kind of was that guilt and expectation that as the woman, I would take on the bulk of just the kids' stuff and the mental load from that. And so from that conversation, we really shifted. And so then Mark took on more of the home duties. We also outsourced a lot of the things at home. And so we started hiring out more laundry and food preparation and things like that, because I just went, I can't keep producing these golden eggs and also doing everything else. To stretch the analogy further, it was like I was trying to be the plow horse and a show pony, moonlighting. And you cannot do that. It's so hard. The start of your business, of course you do. Of course you're the one, hi, doing the interviews and doing your social media and doing your bookkeeping and doing all the things behind the scenes. Of course you have to do that. And it's not about outsourcing everything, but it's letting go of the things that drain you and allowing yourself to shine and be in your zone of genius. It was like I was trying to be on stage, hey, and then I was also sweeping the theater and selling the tickets, and, oh, hang on, I'll just get off stage and then let me sell you your refreshments. Let me scoop the ice cream for you as well. At some point, you have to graduate yourself in your business to be the leader, be the CEO. And I felt a massive power shift in that, of just going, wow, I am the golden goose of the business. And it felt really, really powerful. But it also meant I had to make some changes, because I thought, hey, the business shouldn't be reliant on me as a human being.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's unsustainable too. So then I had to almost create a golden goose of the business, and to be like, no, I'm the golden goose of my life, and let's create, more structures in the business. So it's its own entity too, because it's not healthy to intertwine them too much.
Exactly. And I think a lot of us also have personal brands, and we're very much the face of our business. So it's very important to be able to differentiate that, so you don't feel like indeed you're on stage one moment and then the next moment you're out there doing all the behind the scenes all the time, constantly. You have to find them, find that sweet spot to be able to say, this has been great, it's enough now it's time for something much better.
And you know what? That was hard for me as an Australian, because of the mateship thing of going, we all muck in, we're all here together. I'm not too good to do any, I'll stack the chairs as well. And then realizing it's going, but what I do is valuable.
Yeah.
And on that first tour, I would say, oh, cool. Yeah. If I've got friends in town, come and hang out with me before the event. And I would be like, so tired, because they'd come in and be like, oh yeah, let me tell you all my problems. And I'd just be like, oh man, I've got to be on stage. And then even things like having to say, this is what I need for food, and it needs to be there, because it just felt like, well, that bit's not valuable. The bit on stage, whatever, that's just me talking, and going, no, that is my puzzle piece. And almost having to say to Mark as well, saying, when he came into my business, I'm like, you're really great at marketing, but people aren't here to see you. They're here to see me. Mm-hmm. And that's my job. And the only thing really that I can't outsource in the business, I mean, imagine if Mark turned up to this interview and said, well, Denise has outsourced it to me.
It would be fun. Would be an interesting experience, to say the least.
It'd be super fun. And I used to think that wasn't particularly valuable, because it was so easy. It's, oh, well, we're just talking. It's having fun. And so I would be like, well, yeah, let me do all the other things in the business too. And now I'm just like, hang on, not many people would be able to do the amount of interviews that I do. And that is a skill set. It's not just happening by accident.
Definitely. And this is a great spot again to sort of slowly shift into the new version of Chillpreneur, which is now Chill and Prosper. So I would love to hear a little bit about your journey with that, because I know the first time it got released, there were a couple of things you were not 100% happy with, including the cover. And now there's a brand new version and it's all upgraded and expanded. So what can the readers expect, and where can people pre-order if they're watching this on time, or where can they order it if they're watching this a little bit at a later date?
Yeah. And you know what? My publisher aren't angry about that, that I talk about the fact that I didn't like the cover. But I remember at the time sort of going, okay, universe, I'm just going to put it out there, fix it one day. And it's so unusual to be able to do a new edition of a book so soon too. And the only reason that I was able to do it so soon is the book came out in 2019, which meant I wrote it, the year before in 2018. And the world has just changed in so many ways. And so when my publisher contacted me and said, look, we'd love to do an updated post-pandemic kind of edition. Doesn't mean that the book is about the pandemic, but it was just those little shifts and nuances that I think when you read business books that were written a couple of years ago, they didn't know what was coming, obviously. And some things just sound a little off. The other fun thing that I got to put in is that people would contact me and say, that's great, Denise, I'm so inspired, but it doesn't work for my industry. My industry is exempt, or it doesn't work for my personality, or, for my industry, no, we're not allowed to do this. And so the pandemic has kind of shown us, yes, you can have an online business in almost any industry you can think of. Yes, you have to make things easier, but you can choose to do that now. So I was able to put that into the new edition, which is cool. And I love the new cover, which I love. So good. And I've been able to put together some really cool bonuses. So if people go to denisedt.com/prosper, you can find the links to where to buy it in, Kindle and paperback. And there is an audio version as well. And then you can get all these cool bonuses. And one of them is I did a meditation album, several meditation albums of affirmations and beautiful meditation music on very specific business things, like getting more confident in your marketing, breaking through a 6-figure and 7-figure income plateaus, making friends with your money, forgiveness for past money mistakes, things like that. And you can just listen to them while you're working, and it's just another layer of that stuff going in. And that's one of the bonuses.
That's amazing. Yeah. Everybody, please go check it out. I'm going to be linking it on the screen, and you can also find all the details in the description. You're going to want to get the updated book, even if you have the original Chillpreneur. I have it right here, but I'm definitely also getting the new updated version. The bonuses sound so good. And I think there's going to be some amazing new insights in there. You also have an amazing YouTube channel, like I mentioned earlier, where you talk a lot about money mindset, money blocks, and business. Apart from subscribing to this, again, the link is down in the description. Where can people find you to further connect with you?
So I'm super easy to find. My website is Denise DT, and my social handle is @Denise DT as well. So I'm on Insta and Twitter and Facebook and TikTok. I think TikTok is Denise Duffield-thomas, and I think my YouTube channel is as well. But Denise DT, Money Mindset, Chillpreneur, you will find me. I've been around for so long now that you can even see all my really old photo shoots. If you do Denise Duffield-thomas and then hit images, you'll see all my very early photo shoots, and you'll see how my brand has evolved over the last 10 years.
I love that. I think this is also very valuable, almost like research for a lot of us, right? To see this like evolution you went through to inspire many of us to sort of, believe in that path and continue to go down in that journey. In one of your latest podcast episodes, I also caught a glimpse that you have a business course coming out later. Do you mind giving like some spoilers around that to my audience who might be very interested in learning about it?
I would love to, because I love business. I love talking about marketing. And I've resisted doing it because I like to keep my business very chill. And for the last 10 years, I've been like, all roads lead to boot camp. Don't get distracted. But I talk about money archetypes a lot. I'm certified in a method called Sacred Money Archetypes, called Kendall Summerhawk, which has been about 10 years now. And normally I just teach it pretty much just in my private retreats and things like that. And it's a personality test, but particularly for your money. And then what I've done for my course is taken the framework and looked at passive income, building a team, how to market to the different archetypes. And it's just one of those really interesting layers of learning about yourself and about other people. And it is like having a superpower when you learn someone's archetype. But what's super fun about it is the first time I ran the course a couple of years ago, I kind of just did the course as me. I was just like, hi, let's talk. And there's 8 different archetypes. This time I thought, wouldn't it be fun if I did a complete sales path separately for every archetype?
Wow.
So so that's like doing 8 launches in one and creating 8 courses at the same time. So not only did I do the video content like that, the look and feel is different for every archetype. So I hired a set designer and we did a different set for every archetype. And for 2 months, I went thrift store shopping and bought things on Marketplace. And then I hired a stylist and we went shopping, and again, thrift store shopping and everything, to have a very specific look for each archetype.
Wow.
Yeah. And then obviously had to write all the videos. So it's one of those typical launches where it's like a 4-part video series, but that's 4 times 8 that we had to do. So I had to write all the scripts for them. And then I filmed it over a week, and it was like starting at 9 in the morning, finishing at midnight every night. And we ended up with like 100 videos. But what was really interesting about that is that sitting in the set, in the outfit, really did something to my energy. And it was
puts
very
you in
subtle.
character, right? Almost like puts you in character.
It does. And so for the Maverick one, I was like talking really fast, and it's, really dynamic kind of archetype. And then for the Nurturer one, my whole energy was just like, hi, I'm so happy you're here, because they need a little bit more of a reassuring kind of energy. And so sometimes it was, I was almost saying the same thing to some of them, but the one word might be different. It was like, I'm so pumped you're here. I'm so honored you're here. I'm so excited you're here. I'm so pleased and happy that you're here. And each one just needed to hear something slightly different. So I'm in the editing process at the moment. I'm a ruler, and rulers completely underestimate the amount of work, always overdo things.
Me as well. I'm a ruler too. Totally.
So
relate.
you can imagine.
Yeah.
The first time we did it, I was like, we're going to edit these videos in 3 weeks. I had to end up pushing the launch because there were so many videos. And so we're in the edit process at the moment, and I'm having to go to the stock video sites to send to my editor. I have to have a different playlist for each one, because I'm like, oh, you can't just use the same, stock footage. It has to be related. And then I had to find 8 different intro music, and it's insane and wild, but it creatively was so much fun for me to put together. And I hope people see that too, and feel that you can have so much fun when, 1, you magnetize who you are, but 2, when you're speaking the language of your archetype and know how that all comes together. So that will, we're going to do that in August after the book launch. And I'm so excited even just to do all the free content for people, because we did so much behind the scenes footage. And I'm going to release a whole bunch of behind the scenes, but I'm doing my own little tests, because I've got a hypothesis of who's going to join, what stage they're going to join in the process, because that's very different too. What little things kind of turn people on and off. And yeah, just having that sales process very specific for each archetype. So watch this space.
Oh, I love this. I'm so glad I asked you this question. I can see like the shift in your energy as you're talking about it. You're so excited to put this out there in the wild, and I'm definitely going to be one of the first people to sign up. I can't wait to see what you've done with all of them, especially the ruler. I'm already having some ideas in my head how that might have gone down in terms of the sets. Did you have like a nice big throne and this kind of royal, almost like this kind of royal being, being very
I love
almost
that
like
you know that.
rigid. Yeah.
Well, there's going to be so many little subtle things. So I'm going to do almost like, those BuzzFeed lists where they're like 20 things you didn't notice in Toy Story. So I'm going to do a breakdown of each set because there's little things. So there's like queen bees and little crowns and things on the walls and like little trinkets and things that are meaningful to me, but also things that are very subliminally subtle. And I'll give you a couple of clues on this. I might have to come back and talk about this because we can talk about this all the day. The connector personality, they're peacemakers. And so the plant in that set is a peace lily. And you would never notice that necessarily, but it's little things like that. But in the accumulator set, the plant is a money plant, a jade plant. In the connector set too, relationships are really important to them. So there are like thank you cards from my clients in the background. And in the nurturer set, it's all about love and, like really caring for people. So like the throw on my chair, it's got these very subtle little heart patterns on them. And I'm wearing like a little heart necklace and a cat necklace, because when I did interviews with people who were nurturers, everyone had a cat. Like every single person had a cat that I was interviewing. And so I was like, oh, I'm going to do a little cat necklace. And I had a different mug for every archetype. Because again, ruler, you understand where
yeah, I totally get you. That's why I love hearing you talk about it as well.
I created so much work for myself and the team, but I had to really advocate for it, because every time it was like, oh no, it's too much work, let's not do it. And it was like, no, I'm going to make a stand for this, because creatively it's super fulfilling, but I want all of those little details to be interesting. And it was just so much fun. But even the way that we, so one of the archetypes is celebrity, and it's the flashy, like very, very glamorous. And that's not me. I can do it for like a little bit, but I could never go full celebrity. And so the set for that one was very hard for me to put together, because I noticed a lot of celebrities, they have shoes and handbags in their office. They display their beautiful things. And I was like, I have no shoes. I wear flip-flops. So I had to really go and buy like shoes and handbags and things. And then because I didn't want to go and buy, heaps of designer stuff, I was saying to my film guy, I was like, don't go too close, because celebrities will go, that's not a brand. They'll notice those little things.
Yeah.
So I was like very soft focus. And then I was like, all my perfume bottles and makeup and just little gold shiny things and mirrors, and because they love all their treasures out on display. And, I was wearing perfume because I was like, oh, I have to put perfume. And part of me was like, I'm going to change underwear for every single archetype. And I totally ran out of time. I thought it was going to take 2 hours per archetype, and it took more like 4. And then of course I had, sales videos and things to do. But there'll be so many little subtle things like that I can't even remember that I bought and why. And even my designer, sometimes she's like, run me through what this is. And I was like, well, and it would be something like this. This is a bracelet, but it would have like peace written on it. And I'm like, I'll know it's there.
Yeah. It's all about getting in character and like conveying that out there, like to the people, all the subtle details. This is so great.
Well, and the logo for the course is this necklace, which you can see. And so that's the logo. And so I've been wearing this necklace for the last couple of months, and I'll be wearing it, throughout the launch. And I wore it for some of the archetypes. So it's those little subtle things like that. And even trying to make all of the sets still the Denise version of that. Because really, we all have, those personalities. We could have grown up, you could have been born in a different country. You could have decided to go live in Australia instead of Amsterdam. And so, it's bringing all of those pieces of us together, and giving ourselves permission to make it really fun and easy. So thank you for, oh God, I could talk about that forever.
Yeah.
But thank you for asking me about that, because you can see how ridiculously excited I am, like a little kid.
That's like, I caught that in an episode. I'm like, I have to ask about this. I feel like no one is going to ask about this. I do have to be one of the first people. So I'm going to also be linking all the details of that in the description when it's out there in the wild. Anyone and everyone watching this episode, definitely check this out as well and find out what is your archetype and how you can use that for your advantage. And Denise, it's been such a pleasure speaking with you and getting to meet you in real life. And this has been something that I wanted to do for a while. As we're wrapping up, I know you have these kind of famous last words, and I always had the dream of saying them with you. For those of you who don't know, definitely need to tune into all of Denise's videos and podcast episodes, and you will know exactly what I mean. But I would love to be able to say it with you together in sync.
1, 2, 3.
It's your time.
And you're ready
for the next step. Oh, I love that. Thank you so much for being with me here today. This has been a great time. And thank you everyone for tuning in and listening. This is Making It in Holland, a channel about life, career, and business in the Netherlands with lovely Denise DT. Check out Chill and Prosper. Check out the Sacred Money Archetypes course. Check out everything she has to offer. She's amazing. And until the next time, as usual, don't forget to stay awesome. Thank you, Denise. This was really great.
That was so much fun.